And welcome back. After creating the query to retrieve the wallet by its ID and the user ID, right now it's the time to create the Azure function that drives this process and this logic to retrieve that wallet for that user. But another reminder, make sure to hit the subscribe button, join our Discord channel, and check the AK Academy schedule on our website and the Discord server where we have amazing discussions, and of course the subscribe button, that basically the main source of encouragement to do more stuff. After we have implemented that one, now it's time to start creating the function. So basically I will go to the functions project over here, and we have the list wallets. We have this function one over here, which is, it was the, okay, let's start from scratch and remove this one because it will mislead a little bit. So remove, and then hit add new function, and we'll call it get wallet by ID, or let's call it get wallet details. Basically that's a more meaningful name. It's HTTP trigger with OpenAPI, of course. For now let's keep it anonymous because we are going to retrieve it later on, to secure it later on using using the Azure Active Directory P2C. So this is the get wallet details functionality over here. So what we are going to do, we are going to come back for those after we finish the wallets, and then that's good. So the first thing is to inject the iWallets repository over here in this function. So to inject it, private read only iWallets repository, like that. And call it wallets repo. Very good. And let's add that to the parameter to the constructor by hitting this button. Okay, it has been added. Let me put them on two different lines so this is more readable. That's very good. So here for the logging message, retrieve the wallet. First of all, let's bring the string wallet ID. So in this case, we are retrieving the wallet from the query parameter of the URL. We are going to see that in a bit on the Postman, and then we will log the information, retrieve the wallet with the ID, wallet ID, like that, for the user, and here we are going to add the user ID. So basically the user ID, for now it's user ID for development purposes, but later on fetch the user ID from the access token, like that. Correct? Very good. So now we need to validate for this one, actually, if there is something wrong with it or if it's empty. So let's throw an exception. So wallet ID dot if string is null or white space. So what we will be doing is wallet ID, like that, and here we go. I like the GitHub Copilot, so make sure to subscribe for this because, as you have seen, like, this is amazing. Return a new bad request object result. Bad request object result means you are retrieving the 400 response, but it contains an object. And as we have agreed, we don't use just strings like that. We need to use new API error response. This is the one that we have agreed on and we have created in the shared responses, correct? So by hitting that one, then here we pass the message, and the message says wallet ID is required. So before we proceed, let's test this logic that we have written over here. We don't need all of this stuff. Okay, this is all complicated. So let's see what we get under this moment. And as I've said, this looks scary a little bit if you are new for Azure Functions, but don't worry, those are just documentation for the Swagger API. But we are going to talk more about that, and we are going to cover the concept of Azure API management later on when we finish the Azure Functions. the version 1, so no worries about that. Just we focus onto this one, which is the function name. This is what matters actually. So right now, after we run the project, you're going to see that we have, let's make this a bit bigger, so we have get wallet details. And actually, if we visit the Swagger UI, if I go and take this one, copy, go to the website and open this, and here we go, you are going to see that we have list wallets and get wallets. They are not documented yet, what they take parameters and what they retrieve, because we didn't that yet, but we're going to do that in a later video. So let's call this function and see what you are going to get. I will take this one like that and go to Postman. Let's create a new request over here. So I'll add request. Let's name this request. We'll call it get wallet by ID or details, whatever you would like to call it. Paste the URL over here. Very good. So all what we have to do is to pass the ID of the wallet, and I will pass it empty for now and hit send to see what you're going to get. And this is exactly what we wanted to see. The API error response is successful. The message wallet ID is required. So we have to pass a wallet ID. So let's pass a wallet ID. We should get 200, but nothing going to happen because we didn't implement the logic that will go call the database and retrieve the data back, correct? Very good. So this is the line. So in ASP.NET, you basically return bad request in the controller. Here it is the same. Bad request result means you are just retrieving a 400 without any data. But if you retrieve bad request object result, that means you can pass an object in the body of that response. OK result, the same as you have seen in the OK, just return 200, but it's empty. We don't have any body over here. But if you pass any object, whatever it is, you need to use the OK object result. So our data is good. Everything looks very fine, and we have the user ID, we have the wallet ID. So let's call that function from the database. So wallet equals await repo dot get by ID async, and then we pass the wallet ID, and then we pass the user ID, and we should be good. But if we retrieve that, if it's null, what we need to retrieve not found result, just not found. So the user is going to see just 400, but not found cannot be used like a method. Sorry, I forgot the new over here. So not found result. So this means retrieve 404 response code. Else, so we found it. So we need to retrieve. Let's remove that, and here we are going to say return new OK object result. OK object result means retrieve 200 with response body. And the response body, as we have agreed before, it's not going to be wallet, it's going to be wallet DTO. And why wallet DTO? Because we have to transfer. We keep our business entities only for the server logic. We retrieve the client, the data just he needs. So what the wallet DTO contains, so if we go over here, it contains some good amount of data. So let's start filling them out. So even if it's repeated, it's okay. Make sure to do this, because in this case, you are always in control of what you want to send to the client and what is not, without touching your business domain. If I'm retrieving the wallet object as it is, by saying like that, and later on I wanted to add a new property that's calculated, or I want to remove a property, how I can do that? It's going to be hard. I have to change this, and changing this is going to change the logic in other places. No, I have on my DTO, I can change it whenever I want. Okay, it's adding extra lines of code for me to basically manage the process of the translation, but it's okay. Like writing more lines but with more controllability over the project is much better than less lines but like a little bit messy stuff. So okay, I removed that by mistake. Yeah, let's use the power. So the ID is the ID, name is the name. The majority of them, the properties are going to be the same. They're going to be exactly the same in this case, but it's not going to be the same actually in the transactions. In the transactions, you are going to notice a lot of differences. It's not wallet type, it's account type. balance equals wallet.balance, currency equals wallet.currency, bank name, wallet.bank name, creation date, wallet.creation date, IBAN, wallet.IBAN, Swift, wallet.swift, type equals wallet.type, username equals wallet.username, of course if it was PayPal. Type, here I get a problem. Okay, this has to be value like that. Very good. So this is the data that I have. This is all the data that I actually have to return. So there is just a little bit differences. I think there is still one more, which is the creation date. I don't have a creation date over here. I should have it. Oh yeah, I do, but why it doesn't? Oh, okay, it's existing over here, sorry. So now one thing will may come to your mind and say like, hey Kay, why you are not using something like AutoMapper, which takes the properties and compare them and use them together so you can inject that. So basically, I'm not a big fan of the AutoMapper. Usually, this one is just a temporary situation. I came up with my own solution to make the translations. AutoMapper is difficult, at least for me. Setting it up is difficult. I need always to inject something to do the process for me, inject a new object. I have to set up the mappers, and if the object gets complicated and the properties are not the same name, it's not an easy task to set up AutoMapper, right? So in this case, this is basically the simplest scenario where your DTO contains 70% of your business model object and the name of the properties are the same. But this is actually not always the case. You are going to see very big differences in the transactions. So what my own method is to use static extension methods where you define your mappers somewhere as extension methods that take the business model as a parameter and retrieve it as a DTO, and then you have the flexibility we are going to do that in the transactions. But if the thinking about AutoMapper comes to your mind, you can do that, of course. You can try that for one function and try this way for the other function. But after we start with transactions, we are going to see a new way for mapping that's reusable across different functions and places in the code, and it's more efficient than this one. So this is all we have to do. So let's basically right now run the project and see what the result that we have. So I'm passing over here an invalid ID. Like, we don't have something in the database with this ID. We need to see how it's going to react. So I will click on send, get wallets. Let's see if we're going to get something. And that's correct. We get 404 not found. If I put a breakpoint over here, let's put the breakpoint actually. Let's click Ctrl F12 one more time, go to the implementation, and I will put a breakpoint here just to see the result of the function. So I'll hit send. We get the result. If you open the result, you're going to see that we have the resource. The resource contains an empty collection, which is right because we don't have any wallet with that ID and that user ID that we have specified. So yeah, the first or default is going to return null, and in case it returned null, it will return not found result. And this is exactly the goal of this. Wonderful. So right now, let's just pass a valid ID. So I'll take this ID over here, which is this one, sorry. And let's pass it to this functionality over here. Let's set send and see what we're going to get. Sorry, we have this. As you can see, wallet is not null. That's good. And here we go. We have the property that we are aiming for. That's amazing. And this looks very, very gentle. We don't have any property that doesn't make sense. Like some properties available only for the Cosmos DB, like e-tag and the timestamp and all this stuff. This is it. So that's amazing. We have tested all the scenarios. Invalid input, valid input, but not a valid value actually. Return is not found, and the correct value that's going to retrieve something for us. This is the same DTO. Some of the properties will be applied for the bank. Some properties will be applied for the PayPal. Some will be applied for the cash. We'll see later on what you're going to have. in the next sessions of creating a new wallet. But for listing, right now we are good. Until this moment, you have learned how to deal with the Cosmos DB, set it up, create container, make a basic queries. And yeah, I hope you have learned some out of this. We have already passed like a good part of the project right now. So the next step is to create and update our wallets. So thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next one.